I was standing in my tuxedo checking my bow tie one last time. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Allison and I had been together for 2 years and everything seemed perfect. We had our dream venue, our favorite people, and a lifetime of promises ahead of us. But that was before the engagement party. Before the slap that echoed through my life louder than any wedding bells ever could. Who could have thought a single slap would change everything? Before I tell you how one slap destroyed my dream wedding, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe so you do not miss out on real relationship stories that might save your heart someday. I met Allison at an art exhibition in Boston 3 years ago. I had gone there with some friends who were way more into art than I was, but I tagged along anyway. She was standing in front of this abstract painting, completely absorbed. Something about her concentration, the way she tilted her head slightly, while examining the artwork caught my attention immediately. "What do you think it represents?" I asked, stepping beside her. She turned to me with these piercing blue eyes and the most captivating smile. "I think it represents the chaos we all feel inside but never show to the world." That was Allison. Intelligent, perceptive, and passionate. We exchanged numbers that night, and I asked her out for dinner the following weekend. We went to this small Italian restaurant downtown, where we talked until midnight. She told me about her job as a marketing executive, her dreams of starting her own agency someday, and her close relationship with her parents. I shared stories about my work as an architect, my love for designing sustainable buildings, and my tight-knit family. By the time I walked her to her door that night, I knew she was special. There was this undeniable connection between us, a feeling that I had finally found someone who understood me completely. The first 6 months with Allison were like something out of a romance movie. We took weekend trips to Portland, had movie nights at home where we would critique films until early morning, and spent holidays meeting each other families. I introduced Allison to my family during a Sunday dinner. My dad, Jack, was initially skeptical, as he always is with anyone I date. He is a retired police officer with a permanent suspicious squint. My mom, Margaret, was the opposite, welcoming Allison with open arms and homemade apple pie. My younger brother, Daniel, instantly liked her when she mentioned being a fan of the same obscure indie band he loved. "She seems like a keeper, Homer," my mom whispered to me while we were washing dishes after dinner. "I have not seen you this happy in years." Meeting Allison family was a different experience altogether. Her father, Harold, was a successful businessman who measured everyone by their achievements and bank accounts. He questioned me extensively about my career plans and seemed only mildly satisfied with my answers. Her mother, Stephanie, was the personification of perfection, from her immaculate home to her carefully curated conversations. Now I think back on it, I should have seen the similarities between Stephanie and the woman Allison would later become. After 8 months together, we decided to move in together. We found a nice 2-bedroom apartment downtown, close enough to both our workplaces. Combining our lives felt natural, like the logical next step in our relationship. Living together brought immense joy, but also revealed the first cracks in our relationship. Small disagreements about household chores or which furniture to keep turned into bigger arguments than they should have been. Still, I thought this was normal for any couple adjusting to sharing a space. The first real red flag appeared about 3 months after we moved in together. I had forgotten to buy milk on my way home from work, even though Allison had specifically asked me to. When I got home, she was furious. "How hard is it to remember one simple thing, Homer?" she snapped, slamming cupboard doors in the kitchen. "I ask you to do one thing, and you cannot even manage that. Do you even care about what I need?" Her reaction seemed disproportionate to my mistake. I apologized and offered to go right back out to get the milk, but she continued to give me the cold shoulder for the rest of the evening. After that incident, I started noticing other concerning behaviors. Allison began checking my expenses, questioning purchases I made, even small ones like a coffee on my way to work. "Do you really need to waste $5 on coffee every day?" she would ask. That money could be going toward our future. She also started making negative comments about my friends, particularly Tyler, who had been my best friend since high school. "He is so immature," she would say after he left our apartment. "I do not understand why you still hang out with him." Despite these warning signs, I convinced myself that Allison was just stressed about her job. She had recently been passed over for a promotion, and I thought her behavior would improve once things settled down at work. I was wrong, but at the time I was too in love to see it clearly. After a year together, I decided to propose. I spent weeks searching for the perfect ring with Tyler's help. "Are you sure about this man?" Tyler asked, as we looked at engagement rings. "Allison seems kind of controlling sometimes. She just has high standards," I defended. "She pushes me to be better." I planned the proposal for our one-year anniversary at the Italian restaurant, where we had our first date. I was nervous all day, checking my pocket constantly to make sure the ring was still there. When the dessert came out with the ring on top of a chocolate soufflé, Allison gasped, tears filling her eyes. "Homer, yes, of course I will marry you," she exclaimed, slipping the ring onto her finger before I could even place it there myself. As we embraced, the restaurant erupted in applause. In that moment, I felt like the luckiest man alive. I had no idea that the happiest day of my relationship would soon be followed by the worst. The initial excitement of being engaged quickly gave way to the stress of planning a wedding. What started as fun conversations about our dream day soon turned into arguments about every detail. Allison and her mother had very specific visions for the wedding, most of which involved spending far more money than I was comfortable with. "My daughter is not getting married in some budget venue," Harold declared during one particularly tense dinner. "The Westbrook Country Club is the only acceptable option." The country club was 3 times our original budget, but Allison sided with her father. When I tried to discuss alternatives, she dismissed my concerns. "Do you want our wedding to look cheap, Homer? Is that the memory you want us to have?" As the planning continued, our disagreements grew more frequent and intense. We argued about the guest list. I wanted to invite 60 people, mostly close family and friends. Allison insisted on 200 guests, many of whom were her parents' business associates I had never met. "These connections are important for our future," she argued. "You are being selfish by not seeing that." Each time I voiced my opinion only to have it dismissed. I felt smaller, less significant, in what was supposed to be our day together. But I told myself this was normal, that wedding planning was stressful for everyone. As the months passed, I noticed Allison's behavior changing in ways that extended beyond wedding planning. She began to resemble her mother more and more, particularly in her need for control and perfection. Nothing I did seemed good enough anymore. One night, we were having dinner with my friend Tyler and his girlfriend Sarah. Allison spent the entire evening criticizing me in front of them. "Homer cannot cook to save his life," she laughed, though there was an edge to it. "Last week he tried to make pasta and somehow burned the water. When I tried to tell a story about a project at work, she interrupted. 'Honey, you are telling it all wrong. Let me explain what actually happened.' Later, she criticized my choice of clothing. 'That shirt makes you look so unprofessional. I wish you would let me pick out your clothes more often.' After our friends left, Tyler texted me, 'Everything okay with you and Allison? She seemed pretty harsh tonight.' I brushed it off, making excuses about wedding stress, but his concern stayed with me. The following weekend, I visited my parents alone. As we sat on the back porch, my mom noticed my subdued mood. 'Homer, are you happy? Really happy?' she asked gently. 'Of course I am,' I replied automatically. 'Just tired from all the wedding planning.' She took my hand, her eyes filled with maternal concern. 'You know, marriage does not fix problems. It amplifies them. Make sure this is what you truly want.' Her words lingered in my mind as the engagement party approached. Allison and her mother had planned an elaborate event at an upscale hotel downtown. The guest list included over 100 people, and the budget for just this pre-wedding celebration was more than I had initially wanted to spend on the entire wedding. The day of the engagement party, Allison was particularly on edge. When I emerged from the bathroom in a light blue dress shirt, she frowned. 'I told you to wear the white shirt with the silver cufflinks,' she said, irritation clear in her voice. This blue does not match the party theme at all. I thought this looked nice, I replied, trying to keep my tone light, and the white one feels too stiff. Well, you thought wrong, she snapped. Now we do not have time for you to change. Just try not to stand next to me in the photos. Her comment stung, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was supposed to be a happy day, and I did not want to start it with an argument. At the party, I tried my best to enjoy myself despite feeling like a guest rather than a host at my own engagement celebration. While Allison was busy talking to some of her mother friends, I spotted Angela, an old college friend I had not seen in years. Homer, congratulations. Angela greeted me with a warm hug. Your fiancée is beautiful. You must be so excited. We caught up for about 20 minutes, talking about her husband, their 2 kids, and her job as a professor at our old university. It was a completely innocent conversation, filled with laughter and nostalgia about our college days. What I did not realize was that Allison had been watching us from across the room, her expression growing darker by the minute. After the last guest left, she followed me into the hotel changing room, where I was gathering my things. Having fun with your college girlfriend, she asked, her voice cold. Angela, she is just an old friend, I explained, surprised by her tone. She is happily married with 2 kids. We were just catching up. Do not lie to me, Allison hissed. I saw the way you were looking at her. How long has this been going on? I was genuinely confused by her accusation. Nothing is going on. She is a friend I have not seen in years. You are overreacting. Overreacting. Her voice rose. You were practically flirting with her at our engagement party in front of everyone. Do you have any idea how that makes me look? The argument escalated quickly. I tried to explain that she was misinterpreting an innocent conversation, but Allison was beyond reasoning with. Her face was flushed with anger as she listed all the ways I had embarrassed her that evening, from my choice of shirt to my apparently inappropriate laughter with Angela. Eventually, I decided the best course of action was to step away until she calmed down. I am not going to discuss this when you are like this, I said, turning to leave. Let us talk when we both cool down. That was when it happened. Allison grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around to face her. Before I could react, her hand connected with my cheek in a slap so hard it echoed in the small room. The force of it snapped my head to the side and left my skin burning. 2 hotel staff members who were cleaning up nearby froze in the doorway, witnesses to my humiliation. The woman covered her mouth in shock, while the man looked away uncomfortably. In that moment, standing there with my cheek stinging and shame washing over me, something inside me broke. This was not love. This was not the partnership I wanted for the rest of my life. I stood motionless, my cheek burning from the impact. The sound of the slap seemed to hang in the air between us, as definitive as a gavel striking to deliver a verdict. My vision blurred slightly, not just from the force of the hit, but from the tears welling up that I refused to let fall. Allison gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as the reality of what she had done registered on her face. The anger in her eyes dissolved into horror. Homer, I am so sorry, she whispered, reaching toward my reddened cheek. I do not know what came over me. I have never done anything like that before. I stepped back away from her touch. Without a word, I picked up my jacket and walked out of the room, past the embarrassed hotel staff, through the lobby, decorated with our engagement photos, and Homer and Allison Forever signs, and into the cold night air. The drive home was a blur. Streetlights smeared like watercolors through my windshield as silent tears finally escaped. My phone buzzed repeatedly in my pocket. Allison's name flashing on the screen, but I could not bring myself to answer. What would she say that could possibly make this okay? What could I say? Instead of going to our shared apartment, I drove to Tyler Place. It was nearly midnight when I knocked on his door, but he answered quickly, taking one look at my face before pulling me inside. What happened? He asked, guiding me to his couch. Is that a handprint on your face? The story spilled out of me, not just about the slap, but everything. The controlling behavior, the criticism, how I had been walking on eggshells for months, afraid of disappointing Allison. Once I started talking, I could not stop. It was like lancing a wound, painful but necessary. Tyler listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or shaking his head. When I finished, he sighed deeply. "Homer, I need you to hear something, and I need you to really listen," he said seriously. "If Allison were a man, and you were a woman, would you hesitate for 1 second to call this what it is? Abuse." The word hit me like a second slap. Abuse. I had never considered it that way. Men do not get abused by women, do they? But as I sat there, replaying moments from our relationship, a pattern emerged that I could no longer deny. The time she threw a book across the room because I was reading instead of paying attention to her. The way she checked my phone when she thought I was not looking. How she had gradually isolated me from friends she did not approve of. The constant criticism disguised as helping me improve. But she has never hit me before I found myself saying, even as my cheek still throbbed. "That you know of," is the first time Tyler replied. But think about it. Have her other behaviors been escalating? Does she show remorse after treating you badly? Promise to change, then go right back to it? My phone continued buzzing throughout the night. By morning I had 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, and 8 voicemails from Allison. I finally listened to them as the sun rose, casting long shadows across Tyler's living room floor. "Please come home, I am so sorry. I do not know what happened." I just snapped. "This is not me, this is not me. I will get help, I promise. Please, Homer, I love you. We can fix this. If you have ever loved me, you will give me a chance to explain." Her voice moved from apologetic to desperate to angry and back again. The final message, left at 4:27 a.m., was simply the sound of her sobbing. After a sleepless night, I texted her to meet me at a coffee shop downtown neutral territory where neither of us would feel trapped or tempted to make a scene. Tyler offered to wait nearby in case things went badly, but I declined. This was something I needed to do alone. Allison was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, with 2 coffees, hers untouched. Her eyes were red and swollen, makeup-free hair pulled back in a messy ponytail so different from her usually polished appearance. She looked up as I approached, hope and fear battling in her expression. "Thank you for coming," she said softly as I sat down across from her, keeping the table between us. "Homer, I am so sorry. I have never been more ashamed of anything in my life." I nodded, acknowledging her apology but not accepting it yet. "What happened last night can never happen again," I said, my voice steadier than I expected it to be. "It will not. I swear," she rushed to say, reaching for my hand across the table. I kept my hands in my lap. She continued, "It has been so stressful with the wedding planning, and my mom pressuring me to make everything perfect, and work has been insane with the new client accounts." I just snapped. "Stress is not an excuse for physical violence." I replied, the words feeling strange in my mouth, like I was reciting something from a pamphlet rather than having a real conversation. "Would you accept that excuse from me if I had slapped you?" She flinched at the question. "Of course not, but you would never do that. And I thought you would never do that either. Yet here we are." Allison began to cry again, quietly this time. "I will go to therapy. I will talk to someone about managing stress better. Please, Homer, we have put so much into this relationship, into the wedding. We can work through this." As she spoke, pleading for another chance, I found myself observing her as if from a distance. I remembered how Tyler had framed it, how clear the situation would be if our genders were reversed. I thought about the pattern of behavior that had led to this moment, how the controlling tendencies and emotional outbursts had been there all along, gradually intensifying. "Allison," I said finally, "this is not just about the slap. That was a breaking point, yes, but there have been problems for a long time. I have not been happy, and I do not think you have either, not truly." "What are you saying?" Her voice trembled. I took a deep breath, knowing the next words would change both our lives. "I am calling off the wedding. I cannot marry you." The color drained from her face. "You cannot mean that. We can postpone it, take some time, get counseling together." "I am sorry, but my decision is final." What followed was an hour of tears, pleading, and promises. At one point, Allison became angry again, accusing me of looking for an excuse to leave, of never truly loving her. But ultimately, as she realized I would not change my mind, she collapsed into a defeated silence. We parted ways with the practical agreement that I would collect my things from our apartment the next day while she was at work. The emotional tornado was just beginning. Telling my family was easier than I expected. My mother hugged me tightly, whispering that she was proud of me for being brave enough to make such a difficult decision. My father, who had always been somewhat reserved with his emotions, placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing, son," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "No one deserves to be treated that way, not by anyone." My brother Daniel offered me his spare room until I found a new place, an offer I gratefully accepted. Calling Allison parents was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Her father answered, and his response was immediate and fierce. "You made a commitment," Harold barked into the phone. "Men do not walk away from commitments because of one little argument." I did not mention the slap. Despite everything, I felt a strange need to protect Allison's reputation. Instead, I simply said we had fundamental differences that could not be resolved. "This is about money, is not it?" he pressed. "You are intimidated by our family lifestyle." "Well, let me tell you something, young man. Allison deserves better than someone who runs at the first sign of trouble." I let him vent, understanding that from his perspective, I was the villain in this story. When he finally ran out of steam, I thanked him politely for everything and ended the call. The next few weeks were a flurry of undoing plans, canceling vendors, returning gifts, notifying guests. Each task was a painful reminder of the future I had once envisioned, but would never have. I moved into a hastily rented studio apartment, sparse and impersonal, but blessedly my own space, where I could begin to heal. In the days after I called off the wedding, Allison launched what I can only describe as a campaign to win me back. It started with a delivery of my favorite flowers to my new apartment, though I have no idea how she found my address. The card read simply, "I will wait for you. Always." Next came the gifts, each one referencing a special memory we shared. A model of the Falling Water House by Frank Lloyd Wright, my favorite architect. A rare vinyl record from a band we had seen on our third date. A handcrafted compass with an engraving. "Find your way back to me." Each gift arrived with a handwritten letter, pages long, detailing her remorse, her plans to change her undying love. I read every letter, but could not bring myself to respond. The wounds were still too fresh, the trust too thoroughly broken. 2 weeks after our coffee shop conversation, Allison appeared at my workplace. I was in the middle of a client meeting when my assistant knocked tentatively on the door. "I am so sorry to interrupt," she said, clearly uncomfortable, "but your fiancée, Miss Thompson, is in the lobby. She says it is urgent." I excused myself, feeling a mix of dread and irritation. In the lobby, Allison was pacing, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. When she saw me, she rushed forward. "Homer, please, 5 minutes. "That is all I am asking for," she pleaded loud enough that several of my coworkers turned to look. I guided her to a small conference room, acutely aware of the curious glances following us. Once the door closed behind us, Allison burst into tears. "I cannot eat, I cannot sleep," she sobbed. "I have lost 10 pounds. My therapist says I need closure, but I do not want closure. I want you. Allison, you need to stop this," I said as gently as I could. "Coming to my workplace is not appropriate. We are not getting back together." Her face hardened momentarily before crumpling again. "I will do anything. Anything. We can move, start fresh somewhere else. We can postpone the wedding for a year, 5 years, however long you need." When I remained firm in my refusal, her tactics changed. "I have had thoughts of hurting myself," she admitted in a whisper. "Last night I sat in the bathtub with a bottle of pills. My blood ran cold. Despite everything, I still cared about her well-being. Have you told your therapist about these thoughts?" She nodded vaguely, then changed the subject. "Remember our trip to the coast last summer? how we talked about growing old together, watching sunsets from our porch that can still be our future Homer. I called Tyler as soon as she left, shaken by the encounter. She threatened suicide, man. I told him, my voice trembling. What if she actually does something? How do I live with that? This is not on you, he assured me. Call her parents, let them know what she said. After that, it is out of your hands. But what if that is not enough? Listen to me, Tyler said firmly. This is a manipulation tactic. I am not saying she is not suffering, but she is trying to make her emotional state your responsibility. It is not. You are not her therapist or her savior. Still, I made the difficult call to her mother. Stephanie was cold but thanked me for the information. We will handle it from here, she said before hanging up. The next day I received a text from Allison. Thanks for sending the emotional health police. Betraying my confidence really proves how much you care. That message, more than anything else, confirmed I had made the right decision. Recognizing I needed help processing everything I started, seeing a therapist myself. Dr. Freeman was a calm, thoughtful man in his 50s who specialized in relationship trauma. What you are describing is a pattern of emotional abuse that escalated to physical abuse, he explained during our second session. The fact that you are questioning whether you overreacted shows how normalized this behavior had become in your relationship. Over the next few months, we explored why I had stayed in the relationship despite the warning signs. I discovered that growing up with a critical father had primed me to equate love with never quite measuring up, always striving for approval that remained just out of reach. You are not responsible for her actions, Doctor. Freeman reminded me often. But you are responsible for your healing. That healing took many forms. I joined a support group for survivors of domestic violence, initially feeling out of place as the only man in the circle, but gradually finding comfort in shared experiences that transcended gender. I resumed rock climbing, a hobby I had abandoned because Allison considered it too dangerous and time-consuming. I reconnected with friends who had gradually faded from my life during my relationship. Slowly, I began to rediscover who Homer was outside of Homer and Allison. The journey was not linear. There were days when I doubted my decision, nights when loneliness felt like a physical weight on my chest. But there were also moments of unexpected joy, of freedom, of genuine laughter that reminded me what happiness actually felt like. 2 months after the breakup, Allison's attempts to contact me finally stopped. A week later, I received an email from an address I did not recognize, but instantly knew was hers. Homer, it began. I am writing this from my new therapist office with her encouragement. I will not send this to your regular email since I promise to respect your boundaries. I want you to know I am getting help for my issues with anger and control. I have been diagnosed with some things I am working through with professional support. I do not expect your forgiveness, nor am I asking for another chance. I just wanted you to know that our relationship, despite how it ended, has pushed me to become a better person. For that I thank you. I wish you all the happiness in the world. Allison. For the first time since that night at the engagement party, I felt a weight lift. Not because I was considering rekindling our relationship, but because I could finally let go of the worry that she might harm herself, the guilt that I had somehow failed her. Her acknowledgement of the problems without placing the blame on external factors gave me permission to move forward with my own life. A year passed. I had been promoted at work, moved into a larger apartment, even gone on a few casual dates, though nothing serious had developed. I was by most measures doing well. Then one Saturday morning, while browsing at a bookstore, I turned down an aisle and came face to face with Allison. We both froze surprise, rendering us momentarily speechless. She looked different, healthier. Her hair was shorter, her style more relaxed than the polished image she had once maintained so rigorously. Homer, she said finally, a small smile playing at her lips. How are you? Good, I replied, surprised to find it was the truth. Really good, actually. You better, she nodded. taking things one day at a time, as they say. We chatted briefly about work, the weather-neutral topics that felt surreal given our history. As we prepared to part ways, she touched my arm lightly. "I am sorry truly," she said, her eyes clear and direct. "I hope you know that." "I do," I replied, "and I hope you are finding your way forward." "I am," she assured me. "Different path than I expected, but maybe a better one." As I watched her walk away, I realized I felt no anger, no lingering pain, just a quiet gratitude for the lessons our relationship had taught me about self-worth and boundaries. I had learned to recognize red flags, to value myself enough to walk away from situations that diminished me, to understand that love should elevate, not erode. The journey from that devastating slap to this moment of peace had been long and difficult, but necessary. I now understood that sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and the other person, is to end a relationship that has become toxic, no matter how much history or emotion is invested in it. Sometimes the hardest slap is not the physical one that leaves a mark on your skin, but the emotional wake-up call that forces you to confront difficult truths about your relationship. For that painful awakening, I will always be grateful. Have you ever had to walk away from something that once seemed perfect but revealed itself to be harmful? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more real relationship stories, and share this video with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to choose themselves. Thank you for listening, and remember, true love builds you up, it never tears you down.